Hello all and welcome back to another product review from Finominal UK. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Liontrust UK Growth Fund. So to start with, let's head over to the fact sheet. My initial apologies to the team and Lions for the distortion. I did have to enhance this file so we can easily look at the text. So initially looking at this, we've got a inception date of the 12th of March 1993. They're quite a popular fund, 725 million of AUM, certainly concentrated as well with 42 holdings. Now let's talk on the actual benchmark choice. So as you can see, I've highlighted this red. They're using the comparative benchmark one as the FTSE All Share. Now the problem I see with that is the benchmark doesn't match the fund's composition, as we'll see when I go to page 2, as the FTSE All Share has an 85% in FTSE 100 and a 13% in FTSE 250. Okay. Looking to cumulative performance, I've highlighted in red the underperformance. You can see most recent data, fourth quartile rankings, and third over 5 years, though first quartile for since inception data. So certainly worth noting. So as we can see, I put a comment here, short-term quartile 4 underperformance, 1 year, we got a minus 11 percentage point gap, over 3 years, a minus 30 percentage point gap, so chunky is what I'd say. Long term plus 218% versus plus 205% since 1993, but this is front loaded is what I would say, as we'll find when we go over to the fund analyzer. Okay, but before we do, looking at that active share, we can see they are taking generally active bets. So this fund takes big bets versus its benchmark. In regards to this fund's composition though, we can see they've got just over 68% in the FTSE 100 and just over 24% in the FTSE 250. Now, as mentioned, as I'll highlight here, the fund does double the mid-cap exposure than its benchmark in that FTSE 250. So I don't think that's an appropriate benchmark, is what I would say. What I think would be a more appropriate composite benchmark would be 70% in FTSE 100 and 30% in the FTSE 250. Seems straightforward. Okay, so with that in mind, let's head over, but let's do this with the exact ISIN. Now with the exact ISIN, I'm going to head over to the fund analyzer, ensuring UK is selected, and paste that in there, and then analyze. So initially, we will look at since inception data, but I am going to choose our custom composite benchmark, so Liontrust UK Growth Strategic Composite Benchmark. But let's initially look at that since inception data. So I'll scroll down to performance benchmarking, and as we can see, very strong indeed since inception, and has clearly outperformed the strategic composition benchmark. Okay, but if we actually look at the lens through more recent data, last half a decade, let's change this, last 5 years, update, okay, because this now changes the story, is what I would say. Let's look back to that performance benchmarking. Here we are. We're seeing a very close tracking, is what I would say, to the composite, and in most recent years, an actual underperformance against that composite benchmark. But we saw that as well on the fact sheet with these red boxes highlighted. So not so much to note there, but let us continue. So overall, quite an expensive fund as well, 0.83% versus the benchmark's 0.13%. CAGR is double that for the benchmark versus the Liontrust UK Fund, UK Growth Fund. So that's 5.7% CAGR for the Liontrust Fund and a 10.4% CAGR for the benchmark. In regards to Sharpe ratio, we can see a Sharpe ratio for the Liontrust UK Growth over the last 5 years of 0.23, and for the benchmark of 0.62. So on all metrics we've seen there, underperformance and not as strong figures is what I would say for that. Let's have a look at sectors, to see how active these bets they are taking against the benchmark. Okay, straight at you. So to say, we're seeing these green bars showing the difference. So let's see exactly what that is. We're seeing over exposure in healthcare, industrials, information tech, energy, consumer staples, and consumer discretionary, and an underweight of 5.5% in financials. Okay, so this clearly tells me they are making active bets, as we saw anyway on that active share on their fact sheet. Okay, moving over to alpha and factor exposures. I'm going to look at return-based factor exposures, where if I look to equity factor risk sources over the last few years since 2023, seems to be the low volatility factor seems to be the main equity factor risk source for this fund, so worth noting. And we are going to look at alpha attribution now, where this will be the last time I will look at this since inception, okay, because that seems fair, of course. So I'm going to reset this since 31st October 2000, because that's the data I got for the benchmark. Looking to alpha attribution now, we can see alpha consistency of 12 out of 20 years, cumulative alpha as 82%, and if we look at more recent years, we're actually seeing negative unexplained returns, is what to note. But let's move back to the last 5 years, okay, just to see a more recent picture, okay. Looking at alpha attribution again, we've only seen an alpha consistency of 1 out of the last 5 years, okay. Let's look now to risk. So within the risk tab, I'm going to head over to drawdown analysis and stress testing. And pleased to say we've got a very long track record for this fund. So we can see seems to be moving quite closely with the composite overall in regards to drawdowns, though in more recent years, actual drawdowns have been higher than the composite. So worth noting, okay. Let's continue now to diversification. Let's have a look at the diversification score. So relatively low, at 22%, not much more I want to look on here. But what I do want to have a look at is how this fund compares against some peers, okay? Specifically cheaper peers. So let's have a look what we've got here. LNG, Future World, ESG Tilted, Optimistic, UK Index Fund. We'll go for that, okay? BlackRock UK Fund, sure. Let's go for one more, UK Select Equity. Okay, so now we've selected those, including the Liontrust UK Growth. Let's put this in the asset comparer. But before I even look at the charts, let's add that benchmark back in so we've actually got a reference, okay? So I'm going to go here, custom benchmarks, Liontrust UK Growth Strategic Composition Benchmark. And let's see how the composite has performed, as well as the Liontrust UK Growth Fund has performed against those peers, okay? So, having a look. Blue line is the Liontrust UK Growth Fund, which has underperformed against all of them most recently, and the Liontrust UK Strategic Composition Benchmark has outperformed all of them more recently. So, brilliant. So that is one thing I would note for this fund. So against its peers as well, it's quite expensive, as we saw. If we even look here, 0.83% versus the cheaper alternatives, while also underperforming. If for any of those who want to see the actual composite benchmark, I can head over to my dashboard, custom benchmarks. I'll just select the one I've done, edit, and then these are the ISINs as well as the weights. But I'll also put them in the video description should anyone wish to have a look. But other than that, that is all for this analysis. But I do hope you found it helpful and informative as always, and please do like and subscribe, and she'll see you all in the next one. Cheers all.